that insight throughout our news. Now we move on to North America. The U.S. Trade Representative Jamieson Greer has said that U.S. tariffs on Chinese imports of around 55% are a good status quo, but that the Trump administration would like to find areas where bilateral trade could increase more freely. Greer's comments have indicated no immediate move towards lowering President Donald Trump's tariffs on Chinese goods ahead of the November 10 deadline for the expiration of a trade truce between the world's two largest economies. Meanwhile, Taiwan has said that they will not agree to a deal with U.S. for half of its semiconductor production to take place in U.S. This comes after U.S. Secretary of Commerce Howard Lutnick has said that America's pitch to Taiwan would be a 50-50 split in making chips. Taiwan's Vice Premier Cheng Li-Chun has said that she had not discussed the 50-50 idea suggested by the U.S. during the talks and that Taiwan's negotiating team has never made such a commitment. Now for this discussion, we're joined by Andrew K.P. Long. He's a China strategist, joins us live from Hong Kong. Thank you very much, Andrew, for joining us again. Good to see you. Now, with this expiration of U.S.-China trade truce coming soon, what are the priority for both countries for the next phase of trade, if there are to be any negotiations?
I think that both sides seem to be reaching balance in terms of each other's coercive measures and countermeasures. It seems that the United States or the Trump administration is unable to bring China to its knees by this massive sledgehammer of tariffs, because China is able to respond with this very effective and overpowering stranglehold over rare earths. And then there's no possibility of replacing the critical rare earth elements, at least 5 special categories, which go into key products like F-35 fighters. So both sides are reaching some kind of equilibrium, which translates into something like 50% tariffs, and then the Trump administration thinks that, well, with 50% tariffs, maybe the Chinese importers can bear some of them, which is in fact is the case. But then a large part of them is absorbed by the American importers, and then a part of that cost is remitted to the American consumers. Now that the consumer prices have been rising, but not in huge quantities. So it seems that the Trump administration thinks that this situation is acceptable as maybe a starting point for further negotiations.
And Andrew, now bringing Taiwan into this picture, Taiwan's recent rejection of the 50-50 production split. How do you view this development in the broader context of U.S.-China-Taiwan relations?
Well, the Taiwan semiconductor high-end chips is in fact a very powerful stranglehold over China's technological advance, because a great deal of the high technology in supercomputers and very kind of products, they require this very high-end semiconductors, high-end meaning 3 nanometers and below, very, very minute, which required a very high, extremely high precision production technology, which is in control by the world's only company based in Holland, ASML. But then the chips, while the machines are controlled by this Dutch company, ASML, the design and production of these chips themselves, high-end chips, semiconductor chips, almost 90% controlled by this company, TSMC in Taiwan. And then, of course, the fear that the Beijing may invade Taiwan suggests that this, as it controls 90% of the world's production of these chips, which affect American companies, of course. So the Trump administration hopes that by forcing the Taiwanese company to relocate almost the entirety of its production to the United States seems to be the best of both worlds. But on the part of Taiwan, this is a tall order because it's not just the machines. You require a lot of engineers. Taiwan who have been on this for a long, long time, and they have their families. They've lived in Taiwan. You just can't lift them all up and ship them all to the United States. And a large number of them do not want to relocate to the U.S., at least not in the immediate future, particularly in the light of what the Koreans' production in America recently have suffered in terms of the expulsion of some of them from the United States. So I think that this is
Yes.
part of the dynamics. But as far as China is concerned, China is now developing their own high-end chip, particularly connected with AI. And then they may not need to rely on the Taiwan semiconductors, nanometer semiconductors. So I think that there's still the tussle or technological tussle, competition and rivalry between the two great powers.
And Andrew, now looking back at the comments made by U.S. Trade Representative of about this 55% of tariff as good status quo, how do you view this impact of these trade policies, and do you agree that this is good status quo?
Well, the status quo means a kind of temporary balance. As I explained, it seems that the two countries, they're trying to outdo each other, trying to pressure each other into concessions and into a weak position. But now both sides seem to be reaching a temporary balance. But the balance is not it's not likely to last forever, because China is now doubling down on its technological advance. I mean, recent reports suggest that some Chinese companies are able to produce their AI chips and go into new products produced by Huawei. And even the the world's largest semiconductor company, Nvidia, Jensen Huang, want to sell the second best products like X20 chips to China. China is now saying, well, we don't need these chips. And in fact, they're commencing an investigation in the Jensen Huang's company, suggesting that China is now relying on its own inbuilt technology, particularly related to a game-changing technology like AI.
Right, and but still looking from consumers' perspective, 55% does not seem to be good status quo. It's a big change for a lot of people, depending on, and small businesses depending on products from China in U.S. How do you think this will affect, or this will be taken by U.S. consumers?
Well, of course, the Trump administration doesn't care too much about these the smaller guys. Unfortunately, as the saying goes, when elephants fight, the grass gets trampled. Well, this is unfortunate. You can see that the tariffs are also already causing huge disruptions in the global supply and value chain, affecting a lot of small and medium-sized businesses across the globe. And I think the world has got to grapple with it and got to live with it until the two countries' rivalry and competition reaches a kind of long-term accommodation. Otherwise, we're still in this highly disruptive period, and everybody would be affected, particularly the small guys, the small and medium-sized enterprises across the globe.
Right. With that, I would like to thank Andrew K.P. Long for joining us and sharing that